37. 38. Sama Mubarakmand, a Pakistani nuclear physicist, asserted that if Shakti-I had been a thermonuclear test, the device had failed to fire. 39. However, Harold M. Agnew, former director of the Los Alamos National Laboratory, said that India's assertion of having detonated a staged thermonuclear bomb was believable. 5. India says that their thermonuclear device was tested at a controlled yield of 45 kt, 190 tJ, because of the close proximity of the Kitolai village at about 5 kilometers, 3.1 mi, to ensure that the houses in that village do not suffer significant damage. 40. Another cited reason was the radioactivity released from yields significantly more than 45 kilotons might not have been contained fully. 40. After the Pokhran 2 tests, Rajagopalachidambaram, former chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission of India, said that India has the capability to build thermonuclear bombs of any yield at will. 5. The yield of India's hydrogen bomb test remains highly debatable among the Indian science community and the international scholars. 41. The question of politicization and disputes between Indian scientists further complicated the matter. 42. In an interview in August 2009, the director for the 1998 test site preparations, K. Santhanam, claimed that the yield of the thermonuclear explosion was lower than expected and that India should therefore not rush into signing the CTBT. Other Indian scientists involved in the test have disputed K. Santhanam's claim. 43. Arguing that Santhanam's claims are unscientific. 38. British seismologist Roger Clark argued that the magnitude suggested a combined yield of up to 60 kilotons of TNT, 250 TJ, consistent with the Indian announced total yield of 56 kilotons of TNT, 230 TJ. 44. U.S. seismologist Jack Evan Den has argued that for correct estimation of yields, one should account properly for geological and seismological differences between test sites. 40. India officially maintains that it can build thermonuclear weapons of various yields up to around 200 kt, 840 tJ, on the basis of the Shakti-1 thermonuclear test. 40. 45. Israel. Israel is alleged to possess thermonuclear weapons of the Tellur-Ulam design. 46. But it is not known to have tested any nuclear devices, although it is widely speculated that the Vela incident of 1979 may have been a joint Israeli-South African nuclear test. 47. 48. 271. 49. 297. 300. It is well established that Edward Teller advised and guided the Israeli establishment on general nuclear matters for some 20 years. 50. 289. 293. Between 1964 and 1967, Teller made 6 visits to Israel where he lectured at the Tel Aviv University on general topics in theoretical physics. 51. It took him a year to convince the CIA about Israel's capability, and finally in 1976, Carl Duckett of the CIA testified to the U.S. Congress, after receiving credible information from an American scientist. Teller, on Israel's nuclear capability. 49. 297. 300. During the 1990s, Teller eventually confirmed speculations in the media that it was during his visits in the 1960s that he concluded that Israel was in possession of nuclear weapons. 49. 297. 300. After he conveyed the matter to the higher level of the U.S. government, Teller reportedly said, "They, Israel, have it, and they were clever enough to trust their research and not to test. They know that to test would get them into trouble." 49. 297. 300. North Korea. North Korea claimed to have tested its miniaturized thermonuclear bomb on the 6th of January, 2016. North Korea's first three nuclear tests, 2006, 2009 and 2013, were relatively low yield and do not appear to have been of a thermonuclear weapon design. In 2013, the South Korean Defense Ministry speculated that North Korea may be trying to develop a hydrogen bomb and such a device may be North Korea's next weapons test. 52-53. In January 2016, North Korea claimed to have successfully tested a hydrogen bomb. 54. Although only a magnitude 5.1 seismic event was detected at the time of the test. 55. A similar magnitude to the 2013 test of a 6.9 kT, 2538 TJ, atomic bomb. These seismic recordings cast doubt upon North Korea's claim that a hydrogen bomb was tested and suggest it was a non-fusion nuclear test. 56. On the 3rd of September, 2017, the country's state media reported that a hydrogen bomb test was conducted that resulted in perfect success. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, the blast released energy equivalent to an earthquake with a seismic magnitude of 6.3, 10 times more powerful than previous nuclear tests conducted by North Korea. 57. U.S. intelligence released an early assessment that the yield estimate was 140 kT, 590 TJ, 58, with an uncertainty range of 70 to 280 kT, 290 to 1170 TJ. 59. On the 12th of September, NASA revised its estimate of the explosion magnitude upward to 6.1, matching that of XPTO, but less powerful than the USGS estimate of 6.3. Its yield estimate was revised to 250 kT, 1000 TJ, while noting the estimate had some uncertainty and an undisclosed margin of error. 61. On the 13th of September, an analysis of before and after synthetic aperture radar satellite imagery of the test site was published, suggesting the test occurred under 900 meters, 3,000 feet, of rock and the yield could have been in excess of 300 kilotons. 62. Public knowledge. The Thermonuclear design was for many years considered one of the top nuclear secrets, and even today it is not discussed in any detail by official publications with origins behind the fence of classification. United States Department of Energy, DOE, policy has been, and continues to be, that they do not acknowledge when leaks occur, because doing so would acknowledge the accuracy of the supposed leaked information. Aside from images of the warhead casing, most information in the public domain about this design is relegated to a few terse statements by the DOE and the work of a few individual investigators. DOE statements. In 1972, the United States government declassified a document stating, in thermonuclear, TN, weapons, a fission primary is used to trigger a TN reaction in thermonuclear fuel referred to as a secondary, and in 1979 added, in thermonuclear weapons, radiation from a fission explosive can be contained and used to transfer energy to compress and ignite a physically separate component containing thermonuclear fuel. To this, photographs of warhead casings such as this one of the W-80 nuclear warhead, allow for some speculation as to the relative size and shapes of primaries and secondaries in U.S. thermonuclear weapons. Latter sentence, the U.S. government specified that any elaboration of this statement will be classified. Note 2. The only information that may pertain to the spark plug was declassified in 1991. Fact that fissile or fissionable materials are present in some secondaries, material unidentified, location unspecified, use unspecified, and weapons undesignated. In 1998 the DOE declassified the statement that fact that materials may be present in channels and the term channel filler, with no elaboration, which may refer to the polystyrene foam, or an analogous substance. 63. Whether these statements vindicate some or all of the models presented above is up for interpretation, and official U.S. government releases about the technical details of nuclear weapons have been purposely equivocating in the past. See, for example, Smith Report. Other information such as the types of fuel used in some of the early weapons has been declassified, though precise technical information has not been. The progressive case. Most of the current ideas on the workings of the Teller-Ulam design came into public awareness after the Department of Energy, DOE, attempted to censor a magazine article by U.S. anti-weapons activist Howard Morland in 1979 on the secret of the hydrogen bomb. In 1978, Morland had decided that discovering and exposing this last remaining secret would focus attention onto the arms race and allow citizens to feel empowered to question official statements on the importance of nuclear weapons and nuclear secrecy. Most of Morland's ideas about how the weapon worked were compiled from highly accessible sources. The drawings that most inspired his approach came from none other than the Encyclopedia Americana. Morland also interviewed, often informally, many former Los Alamos scientists, including Teller and Ulam, though neither gave him any useful information, and used a variety of interpersonal strategies to encourage informative responses from them, i.e., asking questions such as do they still use spark plugs, even if he was not aware of what the latter term specifically referred to. 64. Morland eventually concluded that the secret was that the primary and secondary were kept separate and that radiation pressure from the primary compressed the secondary before igniting it. When an early draft of article, to be published in the Progressive magazine, was sent to the DOE after falling into the hands of a professor who was opposed to Morland's goal, the DOE requested that the article not be published, and pressed for a temporary injunction. The DOE argued that Morland's information was 1. Likely derived from classified sources, 2. If not derived from classified sources, itself counted as secret information under the Born Secret Clause of the 1954 Atomic Energy Act, and 3. Was dangerous and would encourage nuclear proliferation. Morland and his lawyers disagreed on all points, but the injunction was granted, as the judge in the case felt that it was safer to grant the injunction and allow Morland, et al., to appeal, which they did in United States v. The Progressive, 1979. Through a variety of more complicated circumstances, the DOE case began to wane as it became clear that some of the data they were attempting to claim as secret had been published in a student's encyclopedia a few years earlier. After another H-bomb speculator, Chuck Hansen, had his own ideas about the secret, quite different from Morland's, published in a Wisconsin newspaper, the DOE claimed that the Progressive case was moot, dropped its suit, and allowed the magazine to publish its article, which it did in November 1979. Morland had by then, however, changed his opinion of how the bomb worked, suggesting that a foam medium, the polystyrene, rather than radiation pressure was used to compress the secondary, and that in the secondary was a spark plug of fissile material as well. He published these changes, based in part on the proceedings of the appeals trial, as a short erratum in the Progressive a month later. 65. In 1981, Morland published a book about his experience, describing in detail the train of thought that led him to his conclusions about the secret. 64. 66. Morland's work is interpreted as being at least partially correct because the DOE had sought to censor it, one of the few times they violated their usual approach of not acknowledging secret material that had been released. However, to what degree it lacks information, or has incorrect information, is not known with any confidence. The difficulty that a number of countries had in developing the Thermonuclear design, even when they apparently understood the design, such as with the United Kingdom, makes it somewhat unlikely that this simple information alone is what provides the ability to manufacture thermonuclear weapons. Nevertheless, the ideas put forward by Morland in 1979 have been the basis for all the current speculation on thermonuclear design. Nuclear reduction. In January 1986, Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev publicly proposed a three-stage program for abolishing world's nuclear weapons by the end of the 20th century. 67, 2 years before